Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning to our respected President and the officers of the Theosophical Society, to our brothers and sisters here and worldwide. I'm also going to mention the mobile phones. I know you've just had it, but you're going to have it again. Modern technology is a wonderful thing. It's a blessing, but it can also be a curse. So please be respectful of today's speakers, and can everybody switch off their phones? Thank you. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Caroll Nicholson. Caroll tells me that she is the Krotona Bookshop manager and was born to Theosophical parents. She is past president of the Pumpkin Hollow Retreat Centre, where she also served as treasurer. She is also a past national board member and national speaker. She has been the president of several lodges, most recently the Theosophical Society, how do you say that?
In the Ojai Valley.
In the Ojai Valley. She currently manages the Krotona Bookshop store as a volunteer and has lived in California for 4 years. Caroll has recently joined the National TOS Board in the United States and is planning new projects for TS members to actively express their compassion. The title of Caroll's talk this morning is Compassion Starts at Home. Thank you.
Sorry about this. Chris? Oh, okay. Just took a minute. While my parents are no longer in the physical body, I'm very grateful to them for bringing me into the Theosophical family, and I know they are smiling down on all of us today. Thank you for inviting me, Tim G. And to all of you, namaste. The Buddha is quoted as saying, "If your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete." As Theosophists, we have high, perhaps incredibly high ideals. The voice of the silence is rather harsh, tells us to kill out ambition, kill out desire. Very, very strong words. Krishnamurti, in At the Feet of the Master, reminds us not to gossip, to be cheerful all the time. Very hard thing to do. And Leadbeater tells us not to mourn because it disturbs our loved ones on the other side. Yet when someone we love passes, we all feel very sad about that. Perhaps it's an attachment, perhaps we can analyze it and parse it and say how we should be different. But the fact is, we are human, and that is how we feel. So we are trying to walk a razor's edge, as we are told, a steep and thorny path. We see our imperfections as a threat. So our reptilian brain, our most ancient brain, and it's very lovely, I hope you'll all come at 5 o'clock to hear about the neurophysiology of compassion. I will touch on a few points. You will hear a lot more this afternoon. But when we're hard on ourselves, we activate this ancient part of our brain which is concerned with our survival. Our reptilian brain controls our threat response system. It is what tells us to engage in fight or flight. Now, when we were ancient, living with tigers that could come and attack us, when there were wild beasts and plagues and things, not that there aren't dangerous things now, this system certainly is very useful. But most of the people in the modern world have this system engaged at most times. So we go around feeling anxious. We go around feeling unsafe. Fortunately, as we have evolved, the mammalian brain has come in. And our mammalian brain tells us to be connected to others. I love the picture. I don't know if you can see it. It's an Indian woman kind of honoring an elephant in the water. This mammalian brain is why moms, when their children are screaming, don't hurt them. They see it as a cry for help. They want to comfort them. And in turn, the child knows how to be comforted. The child knows that mother's loving touch, singing, being held to the heartbeat of the mother or the father actually, calms and soothes the child. So we are wired to both comfort and to be comforted. So I ask, are you living as a reptile or as a mammal? And I don't know if you can see the picture of me in the back. No, you can't see it. Is a gorilla. So the question is, and if you can see, this is someone punching a picture of himself. Are you mean to yourself? Can you really, honestly answer that question? No. I know that I couldn't. I'm much better now. I've been practicing what I'm talking about. But I was extremely hard on myself, very high ideals. And when I failed, I took it hard also. So I remember my mother, I did something one time and she called me selfish. And it was like she slapped me in the face. Being selfish in my family was probably the worst thing that you could be. So I had to realize that self-compassion is not selfish or weak. Saying I'm taking care of myself doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It means you're acknowledging that if we have compassion for all of humanity, I am part of humanity also. And I can give myself the same compassion I would give to a friend or even a stranger. If we aren't compassionate of ourselves, we tend to be more judgmental of others. If that inner judge is working overtime, telling us what we should do better or different, that's projected outside. I won't get into the Jungian psychology of projection, but we see in other people and judge them too. And we're certainly not radiating full love to the world, which I believe is certainly, as a theosophist, where we are heading. But we have to admit this negative self-talk in order to be able to change it. Often we're much meaner to ourselves than we ever would be to another person. If a friend of mine makes a mistake, I pat him on the back, give him a hug, and say, that's okay, you'll do better next time, or we'll fix it. Words of kindness. To myself, more often to be, oh, you did it again, you're so stupid. Story, 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 right? The judge in our head always finds us lacking. But we can stop fighting the judge. Every role has a gift. The judge is actually not there to make us feel bad about ourselves. The judge gives us ideals. If we don't have ideals, then we just kind of sit with what we're doing. So there's no motivation for self-improvement. Keeps us from doing dangerous things. The judge says, you know what? You're not as young as you used to be. Maybe skydiving next lifetime. Maybe not this lifetime. Helps us make moral decisions. Trying to be a good person has its values. Judging ourselves as bad, however, is where we go with it, and that is not useful. And the judge wants us to be the best that we can be. When we're judging ourselves, We are both perpetrator and victim. We're perpetrator as the judge, and we're victim as the judged. Often we identify more with the victim, that there's someone in our head putting us down, telling us there's something wrong with us, telling us that they're different. I know at one point in my life I felt like somehow everyone had been given an instruction manual of how to live and how to relate, and somehow I didn't get mine. But everyone else knew, and we'll talk a little bit about feeling different and feeling isolation. So instead of rescuing ourselves, there's something called the triangle of disempowerment: perpetrator, victim, rescuer. So normally, if we see someone in trouble, we try to help them. Perpetrators often get punished, although actually perpetrators need help also. Often people that are abusive, for example, have been abused as children, and they deserve our compassion also to help being able to break that system. But rescuing can come from a sense of wanting to be helpful, wanting to be Superman, or now there's a new series, Supergirl, wanting to be the hero. But instead, we look at what is happening and let go of this inner duality. And if we have two people, actually many more, but these two roles inside of us all the time, how can we possibly understand the unity of all life with even in our own hearts there is duality? Not judging it though, right? That's okay that that's happening, but we can work on it. There is a way out. Instead of running away from ourselves, we face the pattern head on. We stop the inner duality and we can find harmony. Certainly in moments of meditation, we are able to get out of these patterns. I'm not going to talk about meditation a lot, but certainly I believe most theosophists are meditators. And there is a sense when the personality gets out of the way and sheds that you can feel that inner harmony and unity. But then we get out of meditation and we get in traffic in Chennai, and all of a sudden our sense of self is very there, wondering why the driver can't just wait and has to squeeze between the rickshaws and things like that. That skipped. We can practice breaking the pattern. When we find that self-talk, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not enough, period, and change it to, I am enough. I have the resources I need. I have everything I need. And I'm a work in progress, as are we all. Instead of feeling that our way is blocked, we can break down the boulder of negative perceptions. So if you're not being treated with the love and respect you deserve, check your price tag. Perhaps you've marked yourself down. It's you that determines your worth by what you accept. Get off the clearance rack and get behind the glass case where valuables are kept. Bottom line, value yourself more. And for me, being raised as a theosophist, against a lot of what I thought I was being taught about being compassionate for others. Others come first. Madame Blavatsky tells us that, right? That's the way, is to put others first. But doing that when you're not feeling good about yourself, or not accepting, perhaps is a better word, of yourself, is kind of putting the cart before the horse. So taking care of ourselves is important. We can admit when we are suffering and comfort ourselves as we would any friend. When I accept myself, I am free from the burden of needing you to accept me. So if I'm okay with me, flawed and imperfect as I am, I'm not looking outside for people to tell me I'm okay. If someone walks by me on the property and doesn't smile and say good morning, I don't have to go to, what did I do wrong? Should I put on a bindi? Is my hair wrong? Did they not like my outfit? You have the whole story that kicks in as far as what happens. Chances are the person is just preoccupied and doing their own thing. So when you have this self-acceptance, then you can look out at the audience and just see love, or look at anybody and just see love. This is called a queenism. She realized that life was what it was, and suddenly she understood the only part of it she had any control over was how she lived it. So she chose to do it with self-love. I think I have to put on my glasses to read Madame Blavatsky. As we change the world. It is an occult law, moreover, that no man can rise superior to his individual failings without lifting, be it ever so little, the whole body of which he is an integral part. In the same way, no one can sin nor suffer the effects of sin alone. In reality, there is no such thing as separateness, and the nearest approach to that selfish state, which the laws of life permit, is in the intent or motive. So when our intent or motive is compassion and love for all beings, that includes us, and as we rise superior to our individual failings, we are actually helping other people. So, being a theosophical group, me telling you self-love is a good thing, not that you don't believe me, but some research is nice. Let's back this up with some science. There's growing evidence that self-compassion is an important source of happiness and psychological well-being. Dr. Kristen Neff is my main source for this. She sees three main elements of self-compassion. Self-kindness versus self-judgment. We talked about that inner judge. A sense of common humanity versus isolation. Oh, why do bad things always happen to me? I'm different, I'm sad. We all share in this. Buddha tells us that life is suffering. So if we're suffering, we're just part of humanity. And mindfulness versus over-identification. So being able to be with what is versus getting into that point of me, me, me. Self-kindness entails being gentle, supportive, and understanding towards oneself. We don't attack or berate ourselves when we fall short of our ideal. We offer ourselves warmth and unconditional acceptance. Something to work towards. Starting to accept our failings is one thing, but getting to unconditional acceptance takes some work. We acknowledge we are suffering and treat ourselves as we would a sick child or a suffering friend. Often as theosophists, I believe we don't acknowledge when we're suffering. We're looking for others. We're trying to help others. And just acknowledging that moment of suffering is incredibly powerful. I'll tell you a story. Last night, I had this iPad, and my charger didn't work. Worked the whole time I'm here. I tried my iPhone. I tried it in another plug. I did everything I knew to do, and it just didn't work. I have enough power, so that's okay. So my first thought is, it's okay. You have enough power. Switch it off. It will all be fine. And then 5 minutes later, I had this, the way my heart feels is very telling. And when I'm feeling open and loving, I can feel that from my heart chakra. And when I'm feeling nervous, I feel it in the same place. So I started feeling nervous, and my brain went, I shouldn't have teased about technology that first day, because now technology is turning on me, and I don't have notes. I only have this. And then I start thinking, why did it have to happen today? 2 days ago, I could have fixed it. Tomorrow, why did it have to happen tonight? So I go through acknowledging that I am suffering. Suffering doesn't have to be, this was emotional anxiety. Saying that I was suffering, acknowledging the different parts of that. Then I thought from the positive, maybe I'll tell the story tomorrow, and that will help people to have an actual example of self-compassion. And then after that, I thought, maybe it just happened and everything's okay. And then I went to sleep. Little postscript. This morning, I asked about where to buy a plug, and I'm staying at a hotel, and the concierge pulls out iPad plugs and actually had one there that I could have used if I had known. So it all worked out. So we acknowledge when we're suffering in the small things. Maybe we're good in the large things, but it's the practice of the details. If I'm going around feeling I'm different and something bad happened to me, that is a block between me and everybody and the unity and really being present. So that was my soothing and comforting. I let my brain do what it needed to. I let it make up its story. I acknowledged it, and then I let it go. So the second point that Dr. Neff makes is a sense of common humanity. This is recognizing our shared experience, knowing we all fail and make mistakes, that our lives aren't perfect, but neither is anyone else's. So then I could think, how many speakers have had something go wrong the night before? Probably everybody at some time. How many people have had trouble with their technology? Goodness, everybody, more and more and more. How many times have things like this happened? I'm not alone. I'm part of humanity. Still don't like the timing of it, but that's just what happened. It also helps us feel connected to others in our imperfections rather than isolated. So instead of thinking, I should be okay with this, I believe in the unity of all life, I believe that my talk will be fine and hopefully useful if it's supposed to happen. If I don't give the talk, that's supposed to happen, it's really all okay. But in seeing this imperfection, I realize that other people have that too. I certainly want to do a good job. I want people to understand. I want to make my points. And other people feel that way too. It helps us to be right-sized rather than thinking we are better or worse than other people. We just are one of everybody. Third part is mindfulness. Mindfulness allows us to be with what is. We experience our suffering with clarity and balance. We don't avoid it. There have been times when I felt anxious that my answer was just to get out of the house and go do something. And there are times that that's useful too, instead of sitting with it. But to really be mindful, this is what's happening now. This isn't what will happen forever. This is this moment. Let's live this moment without judging if it's good or bad. And be ready for the next moment and the next. We don't ignore it when we're suffering, and we don't engage in self-pity. I believe some people are resistant to self-compassion because they feel it will lead to self-pity, feeling that, poor me, and we certainly can go there, but that's not what self-compassion is. We heard last night from the judge whose name I will not even try to pronounce, since even people who live here had trouble, that pity has an element of superiority in it. I pity you because you feel this way and I don't. So getting into self-pity is that duality again. Instead of the judge and the victim, we have someone compassionate, maybe a rescuer, but we're still in that poor me, I'm a victim state. And that is not what self-compassion is. We show ourselves compassion when our suffering is caused by another. So when someone's mean to us, talk to our girlfriends, get it out of our system, move on. This is the hard one. We also show ourselves compassion when the suffering is caused by our own actions. And with these incredibly high ideals we have as theosophists, when we fall short, when I'm mean to somebody, I feel terrible. There was a time when I was young that someone was angry with me, and thank goodness they didn't have caller ID back then, because I called like every minute to try and get her on the phone because I just couldn't stand that feeling that I had hurt somebody, and I wanted to fix it. So being compassionate with ourselves, even when we do things that we would rather not. Self-compassion helps us to feel happy, optimistic, and grateful. And this is the kind of happiness that comes from finding purpose in our lives. It's not the happiness of acquisition or attachment. It's the happiness of a meaningful life where you have meaningful work and you're living in the world as best you can. We embrace pain with kindness and goodwill. We don't ignore it. We don't judge it. We say, I'm in pain. This generates a sense of well-being rooted in the experience of being fully human. It's different from self-esteem, which can be rooted in thinking we are good. There was a study done of bullies and mean girls. Maybe some of you know the movie about mean girls, the high school girls. There's a high school girl right there nodding her head. I don't think you're a mean girl. And the premise was that bullies bully because they have low self-esteem. They found, however, that bullies had high self-esteem. But the reason they had it was because they were bullies. So they would feel good about something because someone else was put down and less than them, which led to them needing to do that. A bully becomes a pattern, right? It doesn't change. So if we're judging ourselves against other people, we always need to find something to make ourselves feel better. Vic Hao Chen will be speaking later in the convention, and many of you know about the Golden Link School, which is not based on competition. So you don't get to be the top student because you're better than the other 19 in the class. You do the best you can against yourself, as opposed to needing to put other people down to feel better. So it's not it's not based on comparing ourselves with each other. It's linked to wonderful traits here: emotional intelligence, wisdom, personal initiative, curiosity, life satisfaction, and feelings of social connectedness. It's also associated with feelings of autonomy, competence, relatedness, and self-determination. If we had more time, I'd read those again because they're beautiful traits that relate to all of us. All important components of a meaningful life. It offers more stability than self-esteem because even when we fail, we still feel good about ourselves. So we tried to do something and we didn't do it. If we're trying to have self-esteem, then we go to, I'm not good at this. I don't feel good about myself. If we have self-compassion, we say, I'm not good at this. Either I decide it's not something important to me, or perhaps I decide I need a teacher and I want to learn it. But it is not seen as something devastating to us. We feel good when we see our flaws, not because we are special or above average in some way. And those of you that do self-introspection have probably been through this. When you start looking at yourself, it is very easy to think that you are way more screwed up than everybody else, that everyone seems to be doing okay, and here you are looking at yourself finding all these flaws. Well, the good news is if you stick with it, you will find the flaws will lessen, the attention does make a difference, and you'll realize that you're just like everybody else. Neff created a self-compassion scale. She found that self-compassionate individuals suffer less and thrive more. People have less depression, anxiety, and stress when they are kind to themselves. Self-criticism is related to anxiety, depression, perfectionism, and a fear of failure. So when we are not kind to ourselves and that reptilian brain kicks in, it tells us things are not okay. It's actually extremely unhealthy to be living in the fight or flight pattern also. It ages us in many, many ways. So having less depression, anxiety, and stress obviously leads to a lot of other wonderful traits. Self-compassion facilitates resilience as react in a healthy way to negative events. So our ability to bounce back is quicker because instead of thinking how bad we are, there's the suffering, and then there's the suffering of the suffering. You know, it's like it makes it worse because we have the pain, which is maybe this big, and then we make a whole story about it, and suddenly it takes over our whole head, and we can't think about anything else. So self-compassion allows us to catch something when it's small. We validate the importance of our emotions and don't shy away from our negative emotions. Trying to live theosophical ideals can make us think we should avoid our negative thoughts. Actually, it is only by embracing them that we can truly be free of them. So pushing them down, ignoring them, pretending we don't have them simply doesn't work. And it's like a miracle when you do this. When you have something maybe that's bothered you for years and it pops up every few months or something, and you sit and look at it, and you find that it's really not such a big deal. The good news, if you are someone who's hard on yourself, as I was, is that self-compassion can be learned. Our brains have habitual grooves that have been built up in this lifetime, and we're going to learn a little more about neuroplasticity later today. But there are patterns established in our brain. It's how we remember our name, where we live, hopefully where our car keys are, things like that. Every time we do something differently, we decrease these habits and start to establish new patterns. So every time we show ourselves compassion, we are starting new brain patterns which can continue. Self-compassionate people are more connected to others. We are more willing to acknowledge another's pain. We are more willing to alleviate the suffering of others. We are kind to ourselves and kind to others. We are just less judgmental all around. I don't know if you can see the picture. It's a little girl kissing her reflection in the mirror. Self-love is not the same as vanity. Compassion for all beings includes this being too. It is an unconditional love. And that's why I said compassion starts at home. Many of you thought I was going to talk about family, but really our home, for many people, they see it as in their heart. And if we are unified in our own heart and compassionate to ourselves, then we can radiate that to others. When we are full of self-acceptance and self-love, this radiates out to everyone in the universe. The peace within us can change the world. What can one person do? We can become as compassionate with ourselves and with others as possible. And as each individual takes responsibility for their own compassion, the world can definitely be changed. Namaste.
I'd like to on self-compassion. She's certainly given us a few things to think about. Our next speaker is Mr. Harihara Raghavan. He joined the Theosophical Society in 1958 and has been deeply influenced by Annie Besant's writings. He has held various positions in Kerala Theosophical Federation and Madras Theosophical Federation. He has been volunteering in Adyar since 1993 when he retired, and he is currently working as the Honorary General Manager. The title of his talk is Compassion and Reverence for Life.
Shanta Mahanto Nivasanti Santo Vasandavad Lokahitam Charanda Tirna Swayam Bhima Bhavarnave Aheduna Nanyane Pitarayanda Swami Namaste Nadaloka Bendho Karunya Sindho Padidam Bhavabdho Mamuddharatmiya Kadaksha Drishtya Rijvadi Karunya Sudha Bhivishya. International President, revered Chairperson, Co-Speaker, and dear friends. I'm a bit nervous while I stand before you for the simple question that as an individual, am I fit to speak on this subject? Still the choice has been made and the command has been given and I have to obey. Sisters and brothers, before sharing a few random thoughts that come to my mind inspired by you all, who are subscribers and committed members, especially to the laudable object of the Theosophical Society, namely to form a nucleus of universal brotherhood of man, which is the most laudable object in the altruist spirit, I would like to draw your memory, if you remember, to the onslaughts of tsunami on the 26th December 2014, which brought disaster to Indonesia, coastal region, southern peninsula, comprising of Nagapattinam, Kanyakumari and Andamans. Again, towards the last week of November, lasting till 5th December, the South India, especially Chennai, has been subjected to, again, the onslaught of unprecedented rain, which created a history of 120 centimeters or more of rain within 15 days. As a person who has watched the TV and who has gone to visit the suburbs of the city and who have taken active part in the tsunami relief operations, I can say both these incidents, the tragic incidents, the calamities, imposed by nature and accelerated by human infirmity, brought to light the genuine human spirit. The spirit of compassion, the daring spirit of giving succor, the reverence for human beings who are suffering. Youngsters came running even at the cost of life. Inspired by compassion, fellow feeling, there were volunteers who even at the cost of life braved the torrential waves, ripples, flood, which are ravaging certain suburban areas. Their eyes sparkled with kindness. Their hand extended the hand of compassion. There was reverence for life. There was reverence for human beings. There was reverence for the life of cattle. There was reverence for the small babes. Why this reverence? When we see catastrophe, accidents, earthquakes happening in and around the world, many of which we have seen over the TV, why should we feel for that? Why should tears roll down? Why should our heart throb? Why should we feel one with them? Because subtly one life is there. There is the unity of life. Bible speaks, there is one God, there is none but He, and to love Him with all the heart and understanding, and with all the soul, and with all the strength, and to love his neighbor as himself is more than all those burnt offerings and sacrifices. The Bhagavad Gita is profuse, full of such quotations. It speaks The Lord dwelleth in the heart of all beings. O Arjuna, by his elusive power, causing all beings to move. The Upanishad says, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahman. All is Brahman. Tattvamasi, that the what? Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. Bijam Mam Sarvabhutanam Vidhi Partha Sanatanam. O Partha, know me, I am the eternal seed of all beings. Pidahamasya Jagato Mata Dhata Pidamaha. I am the father, mother of the cosmos and of the grandsire. Gedir Prabhu Sakshi Nivasa Sharanam Surat. I am the abode, I am the friend. I am the path, the husband, the Lord, witness, abode, shelter and lover. Origin, dissolution, foundation, treasure and sat imperishable. So said Bhagavad Gita. O Gudakesha, namely Arjuna, I am the self seated in all beings. I am the beginning, the middle and also the end of all beings. Are we not interconnected? Are we not well knit as beads in a garland? Hence, reverence for other lives and beings is of supreme importance for our world, and we do feel and we do live even though at times we forget that. Nature does not know. Nature knows nor does they know any sympathy for us. She has her own inexorable laws. You may say it's blind laws. No. Nature is in the process of evolution. Earthquake and disaster are part of her being. She knows only one order, that is the cosmic order. She has her own way of cosmic evolution. Creation and destruction of life, creation of forms in myriad ways is her forte. In every stage of life, right to the level of man, terrible ignorance sways everywhere in all creatures. Yes, creatures have the will to live, survive, grow, and instinctively react to certain demands. They have instinctual feeling or love. They suffer. Some of the creatures try to live at the expense of others. But man, who is considered to be far evolved, is the only being who can think, feel, emote, plan, execute, love and exploit. From eternity to eternity, nature works miraculously as per her own rhythm. And also, man tries to sometimes to counter nature, to subdue her. Nature will open her bosom only to those people who try to understand her and cooperate with her. And when man, possessed of intellect, who boasts that he has got discriminative power, uses his brain with an analytical brain to swim against the current, to against nature's law, nature has the upper hand. When we see the happenings before us, caused by natural disasters, sometimes wonderful, we are seized with dizziness because we human beings have some sort of will, and love, we want to love, we try to recognize the unity and try to love people. Before our eyes we see a beetle which is flying joyously in front of us, suddenly lies dead. The flower which bloomed yesterday, which were wafting in fragrance, which were sending sweet smile in the gentle breeze, lies on the ground to be trampled by unkind, unconcerned man. The tiny little bird which flew has suddenly become part of the earth. The life which we saw there yesterday is not here. But still the progress of life goes on. We are faced with technological advancement. Mankind is progressing. Still, here and there, we can see some signs of goodwill. We can see people responding to the great voice of love and compassion coming from great saints like Dalai Lama, Krishnaji, etc. We want enlightenment. Man wants enlightenment. How? He does not know the meaning of enlightenment, nor do I know. To be truly enlightened means to get established in unity. If we really seek enlightenment anywhere, we are not going to get it. Enlightenment should involve service, sacrifice. We often speak of service. We say we should be of real service. But if we want to be of real service, we must be full of reverence for the inner self, which is seeking to express itself in its own way, in me, in you, and every individual. There should not be any taint of self-centeredness in doing service or helping the needy. We have to cultivate the new art and science of living beautifully, serenely. We need to renew our commitment to human values. Shantideva stated, if you are unable to exchange your happiness for the suffering of other beings, you have no hope of attaining Buddhahood nor happiness in the present life. I repeat, if you are unable to exchange your happiness for the sufferings of other beings, you have no hope of attaining Buddhahood nor happiness on the present life. Yes, you and I want happiness. All beings want to avoid pain. They want pleasure. Pleasure is not happiness. Real happiness can be there to anyone when there is harmony in one's own being. Merely recognizing our need for harmony is not enough. Money, wealth, position, recognition of status, awards, rewards, these are not going to give us enduring happiness. When the beings around us suffer, we cannot be happy. As already stated, we human beings who claim to have reached a certain stage in development can ill afford to behave like irrational, selfish beings anymore. We have to be responsible for our actions. Can we profess to be really religious when we are violating the essence of real religiousness? Can we quote scriptures which really call upon us to practice virtues like tolerance, love of God, compassion towards all, truth, dharma, charity, and other virtues, and live contrary to all sacred principles and tenets which different religions at different stages of human evolution have offered us? Can we ever imagine to have peak happiness without any sense of universal responsibility, feeling of universal brotherhood? When some human beings suffer in some part of the world, can we be happy? When small children are being used and misused, when innocent girls are being subjected to sexual brutalities, when innocent youths are not allowed to blossom as potent beneficent souls, but recruited to indulge in inhuman activities worldwide, can any sane human community sit indifferently? Let us recall what one of the inner founders of the Theosophical Society, one of the Mahatmas, stated, for it is humanity which is the greatest orphan, the wholly disinherited upon this earth. My friend, it is the duty of everyone who is capable of, in his unselfish impulse, to do something, however little, for its welfare. Coming to compassion. we share one life. There is unity of life, oneness with the human family. When we are atonement with everything, when we see the bond of sensitivity, we feel sorry for a dying tree, the hunger-stricken soul, the withering greenery, the fading flowers in the garden, the starving children, the majestically running river becoming dried up. When we see that, our being is touched, the cord is touched, and we respond to it in a spirit of love and compassion. Whereas can see the better example than the life of Gautama Buddha. Gautama Buddha laid the wounded swan's neck beside his own smooth cheek and gravely spake, "Say no, the bird is mine, the first of myriad things which shall be mine. By right of mercy and love's lordliness, for now I within me stirs that I shall teach compassion unto men and be a speechless world's interpreter." I repeat, say no, the bird is mine, the first of myriad things which shall be mine. By right of mercy and love's lordliness, for now I ward within me stirs that I shall teach compassion unto men and be speechless words interpreter. Compassion is the law of laws. Mahatmas are so compassionate. They live regenerating the world like the advent of the spring. Mahatma's only passion is compassion. To give up things that belittle things that make small, petty and mean is to cast away our fetters of self-centeredness, to understand and appreciate the richness of inner life, and by everything else, conscious recognition of one's essential unity with all beings at the forefront, the real principle of altruism. And this who shares in one time that quality of outreaching in with an essence of forgiveness and a desire to live in compassion. Understanding compassion does not mean that we have to be silent and meek when some evil is done, somebody's character is illogically, undeservedly assassinated, somebody is tormented and tortured. If compassion also has in it a sense of proportion and justice, friends, the time has come. The time beckons us to know ourselves. You and I are not separate entities. Time is fast running out. We have to lift our consciousness to higher levels so that we will consciously feel and act. Let us have reverence for all things. The trees that give us shade, the blooming flowers that spread fragrance, the wild growth that offers the habitat for millions of insects, butterflies, the herbs which give life sustaining essence, the environment which sustains. Let us have compassion and fellow feeling for the teeming millions throughout the world who suffer from starvation. Let us be responsible and ready to respond to any human need as far as we can. Let us try to wipe some tear. Let us try to soothe the aching heart with our sympathy. Then the compassion shown by Lord Buddha and reflected in the life and teachings of great beings and really religious spiritual leaders, statesmen, saints and sages guide us. Let us feel the hidden life vibrant in every atom. Let us inwardly try to see the hidden light shining in every creature. Let us open our hearts to the hidden love, embracing all in oneness. Let us feel ourselves one with the one life. Let us feel one with everyone and every other. Let the real theosophical spirit prevail everywhere And may we all be blessed to become helpers to the great Mahatmas on some day or other. May we become worthy to receive their blessings in the not-too-distant future. Let me end in this little presentation, born of my ignorance or incomplete knowledge, by quoting a paragraph from the one and only Joy Mills, whom I admire and respect her. I know her from 1973. There's a relevance here. In Theosophical Society, crackers were not allowed. There were small children who wanted to do some enjoyment Deepavali day. And I asked Joy of joys is that joy which joys in the joy of others. Why can't you be a little compassionate and considerate? And she allowed that from the day crackers and the Varbatis or Matapus are being burned on Deepavali day. Regarding she has written this book, Oh Hidden Life. This is a commentary. Many more meanings may be discovered in this magnificent verse which Doctor doesn't bequeath to us. It is truly a reaffirmation of the entire creative process in which we and all life are immersed. A reaffirmation that we hold within our power as self-conscious units of life, the ability to perceive life whole and splendid. This is the vision we can send shining out over the entire world. The vision to which we can give wings and voice and form. It is the vision which can recreate ourselves every time we chant this mantra, namely the universal invocation, and so recreate our world, transform our world. Such a vision alone can bring about a new consciousness in the world, a consciousness of unity, of brotherhood, of peace and harmony, of wholeness and holiness. When we repeat these few simple lines, either alone or in a group, we invoke the one reality to manifest itself in you. And this surely is to make whole and make holy all that is in the universe about us. No more wonderful act could be performed. I just sent one quote from Mahatmas, which is relevant, which is a call to we people who claim ourselves to be members of the Theosophical Society. Our society is not a mere intellectual school for occultism. And those greater than we have said, that he who thinks the task of working for others too hard had better not undertake it. The moral and spiritual sufferings of the world are more important and need help and cure more than science needs from any field of discovery. That we, Mahachohan said, the devoted followers of that spirit incarnate, of absolute self-sacrifice, of philanthropy, divine kindness, as of all the highest virtues attainable on this earth of sorrow, the man of men, Gautama Buddha, should ever allow the tears to represent the embodiment of selfishness, the refuge of the few with no thought in them for the many, is a strange idea, my brothers. Let every theosophist only do his duty, that which he can and ought to do, and very soon the human misery within and around the areas of every branch of society will be found duly diminished. Since there is hope for man, only in man, I would not let one cry whom I could see. Since there is hope for man, only in man, I would not let one cry whom I could save. Let us reflect the spirit of compassion, reverence in our life, fellow feeling, harmony, teamwork, and cooperation. And we end, as Master M said, a man who places not the good of mankind above his own good is not worthy of becoming the chela, is not worthy of becoming higher in knowledge than his neighbor. A man who places not the good of mankind above his own is not worthy of becoming chela, is not worthy of becoming higher in knowledge than his neighbor. Together, differently, let us keep the chain unbroken, chain of compassion, reverence for life, brotherhood, harmony, peace, and bliss. Thank you.
On behalf of you all, I would like to thank both our speakers very much for some very interesting and profound talks. Thank you.